Now let's turn to some tips for limiting sugar-sweetened beverages in the diet. I'll start with bad substitutes for sugar-sweetened beverages. These are not good alternatives to sugar-sweetened beverages. First is fruit juice. Now, fruit juice sounds relatively benign, especially when you compare it to a can of Coke. It's natural, it has vitamin C. But in fact, when you look at the sugar content, it rivals the amount of sugar in a can of Coke. It lacks the fiber of the whole fruit, which means that when we eat it, fiber in an orange would normally slow down digestion and slow down the blood sugar response to the orange. When we have orange as orange juice, we don't have that fiber to slow down digestion. The rise in blood sugar is much faster, the insulin response is much more pronounced, and we're more likely to develop insulin resistance over time, which leads to overweight and obesity. Also, compared to a fruit, one serving of orange juice is going to pack in a lot more calories and sugar. The next bad alternative to sugar-sweetened beverages is artificially sweetened beverages, for 3 reasons. First is that it may lead to cravings for more sugar and increase our appetite. When we eat something that's sweet, whether it has calories or not, we're likely to crave sweets in general, and that can easily lead to eating foods that are sweet and have a lot of calories. Also, when we have something sweet on our tongues, our stomach expects food or calories to follow, and when it doesn't, it can increase our appetite. So artificially sweetened beverages can increase cravings for sugar as well as increase appetite and cause weight gain. The second major factor why artificially sweetened beverages are concerning is called the cephalic phase insulin response. Normally when we taste sweetness, it sends a signal to our brain, the reward center, which releases dopamine. And dopamine works on the pancreas to tell cells of the pancreas, the beta cells, to release insulin. Insulin handles sugar that comes into our body. So basically, insulin is released whenever anything is sweet on our tongue, whether it's from an artificial sweetener or a regular sweetener. And lots of artificial sweetener ingestion leads to lots of insulin release, which leads to insulin resistance and overweight and obesity, as well as diabetes, the same problems that occur with real sugar. So while artificial sweetener doesn't raise our blood sugar the way that real sugar does, artificial sweetener raises our levels of insulin, which can contribute to insulin resistance, obesity, and diabetes. And finally, the third concerning factor when it comes to artificially sweetened beverages is changes to the gut microbiome. This was an important, influential study on artificial sweeteners published in the prestigious journal Nature in 2014. What the researchers showed was that artificial sweeteners, and I'm talking about a whole variety of artificial sweeteners, including sucralose, stevia, Splenda, saccharin, aspartame, when both mice or humans ingested artificial sweetener, there were changes to their gut microbiome that predisposed them to insulin resistance, overweight, and obesity. The other effect of artificial sweeteners on our gut microbiome is they tend to create inflammatory products of metabolism. These inflammatory metabolites cause inflammation throughout the body. And as we learned in the mechanism section, inflammation in the body can hasten the onset and progression of some of the worst chronic diseases, including Alzheimer's, diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. And finally, the last bad option as an alternative to artificially sweetened beverages are smoothies. Despite their popularity, smoothies are actually not that great for you. The main reason is we are drinking our calories when we have a smoothie instead of eating them. What that means is when you have a smoothie, it's not stretching your stomach's receptors as much as if you were to have the same amount of calories in solid form. This means you're able to consume more calories in the form of a smoothie than you would otherwise. And you're less likely to compensate for those excess calories at the next meal because liquid calories don't fill you up as much. So what does that leave us? Have I eliminated anything in beverage form that is acceptable? No, actually. Water is a great alternative. Green tea or coffee, hot or cold, is another great way of getting healthy beverage, unsweetened. What I do personally, especially in the summer months, is I'll take 2 cups of water, boil it, add 4 green tea bags, let it steep for 5 minutes. I'll take a Nalgene bottle that's 32 ounces, fill it with a tray of ice, and then add the 2 cups of hot tea. And that leaves me with 4 cups of iced green tea that I sip on throughout the day. For coffee, I love to sweeten coffee with cinnamon. Cinnamon doesn't sound like it would be sweet, but if you have about a tablespoon of it, after that much, it's actually becomes sweet. It's delicious. I can just brew a cup of coffee, add some unsweetened almond milk to it, and a tablespoon of cinnamon, and it's as sweet as if I'd added a real sugar or artificial sweetener. But this drink has cinnamon, and cinnamon has even been shown to improve insulin sensitivity, which is the opposite of insulin resistance. Finally, I share with you here a demonstration of a drink I like to make, especially in the summer months. It's a Frappuccino, and it's made without sugar or artificial sweetener, with cinnamon, coffee, unsweetened almond milk, and ice. So I encourage you to take a look. This concludes our discussion of tips for limiting sugar-sweetened beverages.